everybody, and welcome to another episode of Connect with KB. I am so glad you're with us this morning, tuning in as we talk about education and leadership and business and all the wonderful things that really connect us to each other. My guest today is a speaker and certified life coach, dedicating herself to helping people accept and believe in themselves while also realizing it's perfect not to be perfect. I want to welcome to the podcast Jamie Lightner. Jamie, it is so great to have you here, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Kristin.
You bet. Let's talk a little bit, first of all, just like I do with all of my segments, is I want to talk about your story. Tell me the Jamie Lightner story.
The Jamie Lightner story. Well, as a kid, I moved around a lot. My dad's job changed a lot, and so we moved around. And so even as a kid, I guess I've been a people person. I loved moving, making new friends. And I was thinking about it today that in second grade, my teacher had said to my mom, I found this out years later, but my teacher said to my mom, I was a new kid in school, and she said, you know, Jamie doesn't really follow the cliques. She somehow brings everybody together. I mean, in second grade, I didn't even know what a clique was. And so I thought, man, that's kind of funny. You know, the social piece of me started many, many years ago. So I grew up making new friends, moving to different houses, redecorating my room. And then in high school, I met my husband now. So we were high school sweethearts. And even then, I was a people person. And I really, you know, people would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, a mom. I want to be a mom. Like, I wanted tons of kids. My grandma had 8 kids.
Sure.
And so I wanted to have 8 kids, and then I had 1, and I was like, I might have to rethink this.
Well, 1's like none, and 2 is like 10. So I suspect that you probably went on and had another.
I did. Even though I said, maybe I'll just have 1 at that point in time. But no, I went on and actually had 4. So I got halfway to my goal. But now they're older. And I still love motherhood. But as they got older, I ended up diving into this whole life coaching thing because of my own life circumstances. My family was going through some struggles, and I was struggling through the struggles. Yeah. And I landed in a seminar that I said I would never go to, but they got me to this seminar. It was a Turning Leaf Wellness Center seminar and emotional growth. And I landed in that seminar and just absolutely loved it. Like I did a 180. I went from really, really struggling to be resilient with what I was going through and just really kind of floundering in life. And after that seminar, I just felt like I had a whole new perspective to who I was. I realized that the weight and the floundering wasn't from the external circumstances that I was sure was that, you know, life is doing this to me. And so I began to see myself in a different light. And after that, I decided I want to give people more. I want to give people this gift. I want to help people see who they really are, so that those lemons in life don't have to necessarily knock you down.
Yeah. How old were you when you did this?
Oh, I was mid-20s I was later 20s with 3 kids at the time.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You know, that is tough. It is tough to, have 3 children, trying to manage that. You know, you obviously clearly are a CEO of the household, trying to manage all of those things. So you got into life coaching, and how has the growth been, and how do you find clients, and how do you market yourself? And let's kind of get into that. And then we'll kind of get into the nuts and bolts of really coaching and what you do.
Well, marketing, I am still learning. I definitely excel at being a life coach and doing what I do. Marketing, I glean from everybody I can, and I'm constantly asking everybody, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? I get most of my clients from referrals.
Yep.
They, you know, once someone works with me, then they can pass my name on. That's how I really grow my business.
And let's talk a little bit about some circumstances. So give me a client comes to you, gives you a call, somebody refers them. What are really those common kind of similarities that they have that really kind of lead them to you? Is it there's just too much on their plate? They have a hard time saying no. Their life circumstances change. Just kind of outline that a little bit.
Yes, you hit
all of the above.
You hit a few common ones right there. I tend to work with women and self-concept. A lot of times that's not being able to say no, feeling overwhelmed, feeling overcommitted. The people-pleasing syndrome that we have it's just
real.
It's real, and it's everybody gets it. I also work a lot with parents. A lot of times, they're overwhelmed with either their kids' behavior. Another common client I have is that I like to call us recovering perfectionists. I really relate to the recovering perfectionists. That pressure we put on ourselves as parents to be the perfect parent can actually be destructive.
Well, as a parent and having watched my children, I think we put so much pressure on ourselves at a given point in time. You're right about kind of that perfectionism and where they need to be and what they need to be doing. And really kind of throughout that kind of K-12, once they kind of get out of high school, I think that they, really kind of at that point start to figure it out on their own. And then a lot of parents, maybe very much like me, thought, I just need to get you out of high school. I felt good about that, okay, now they can kind of they're old enough that they can kind of start to make their own way and I don't have to be as engaged. But it was tough. And I saw that too. I lived that life as well in terms of, really trying to make sure that I was there for them. And I suspect there's a lot of moms, we kind of play this kind of trade-off of feeling like you want to be a full-time mom and then you want to be a full-time employee and commit yourself to a career. And that's a tough space for women to be. And I think that COVID has probably changed that right now, the uncertainty of the environment that we're in. We've seen a lot of women leave the workforce. And so have you had a lot more growth with your client base because of the changes in this environment that we're living in right now?
I don't know as if it's affected my growth as much as I have seen my clients change. Like the pressures have changed. One positive piece to this was moms got a chance to do more of both and not feel as much pressure, I think, because their schedule was more flexible. But then they traded that pressure for the next pressure of the kid can't interrupt the Zoom meeting, right? So it was really neat to watch how in the beginning of all this Zoom action, there was a lot of pressure to have the perfect Zoom meeting. And I really did I found it refreshing when I would hear about, oh, my kid walked in on this. Well, good. I'm glad you're normal.
Right. You and I've talked a little bit about this, offline, about this opportunity for authenticity and to be more real. And I do think that over the last year and a half, that people have had to really be vulnerable and show themselves. And you're right, with kids walking in the background when you're on a Zoom meeting, or even, a mom or dad saying, I just got to take a time out here for a second. I got to go on mute and, get off video for a second because it's got to deal with something. And so, I suspect that in many ways, it's probably been extremely stressful, but it also in many ways has allowed people to really be themselves and be authentic.
Yes, I would agree. And that is really what I help people with, is finding that authenticity. A lot of times we don't realize that we're not being authentic because we're tuning into what everybody else thinks of us. And we're defining ourselves by our external circumstance, whether it's somebody else's opinion, whether it's a job, success, failure, whether it was the fact that my kid ate off the floor that day and I was trying to decide if I was still a good mom. And so I help my clients see who they are outside of everything else that's giving us our definition.
How long does that generally take then? So how many sessions would you generally have with someone before it really starts to resonate where you feel pretty confident that they've got it? Sometimes they think that they've got it, but when you see that, okay, there's growth here, they're changing.
Yes. I think life in general is always, there's always going to be growth. There's not really that arrival point. But for someone who walks in my office with the components of committed and open, a lot of times our expectations is what gets in the way and we keep that perfectionism. But if we can be committed and open, I do have a series it's 5 sessions, and upper 90% of my clients see a difference in 5 sessions. It's something you have to continue to practice, what we learn, but you can have I always tell people I just put myself out of a job in 5 sessions because
they don't need me anymore.
Because they don't, they might come back a few months later and be like, what was that again? And we might work some things, but in 5 sessions, the series that I do that is through Turning Leaf Wellness Center, it's a 4 Steps to Confidence series. The principles in there are they're simple concepts, hard to do, right? I mean, they're not hard to do. It's just our own self-judgment or self-expectation that gets in the way. But I like that it's a simple concept. They're simple concepts.
I think that generally people know it. They know what their challenges are. They know what they're not good at. They know what they struggle with. It's sometimes just verbalizing it and talking about it out loud. How long does a session last with you, and how would someone get connected to you if they have an interest?
A session usually lasts about 55 minutes. And connecting with me, JamieLightner.com is the easiest, simple way to connect with me. My Facebook, my Instagram, my email, like all that is right there, JamieLightner.com. And there's, you can message me right through my website and we can set something up and get it going.
What's your favorite part about this life coaching? And I guess that maybe probably it's changed you too.
And that's it, Kristin. And so I say there's two parts. I have two favorites, and I'll tell you any day. One is I love watching the transformation in a client. I love watching someone who walks in heavy and burdened and doesn't see who they are, walk out light, shiny, and knows who they are. The other piece that I love that I feel like is almost, should I pay them or should they pay me, is I learn so much from them. Like when they're talking their stuff out, sometimes I'm like, oh, wow. Like, cause I give them more grace than I give myself. And so it helps me to give myself more grace because I'm doing it for my client. And it's amazing. It's my favorite part.
Do you think that this life coaching has made you a better parent?
Yes. Okay. So it's kind of funny. I just realized in the last couple of years that when I first got into life coaching, and I'm big in parenting, and the value-based parenting series is through Turning Leaf Wellness Center. I had a little piece of me that was like, I want to be a life coach and I want to teach parenting classes so that I can get it right as a parent. Like my inner perfectionist was like hiding in the crevices of my brain going, ooh, you can get it right this time. And then later on, even after teaching all the classes and doing all this stuff and screwing up and all that good stuff, I'm like, oh wait, I'm still not the perfect parent. But it did help me focus on what I wanted to focus on and apply the tools that I wanted to apply. And part of that even being to this point where accepting the fact that I'm not a perfect parent, but I am perfect for my kids. Like I am who they need.
Well, and the thing is, I think that is very enlightening for them to see that, that we can mess up and that we can apologize and we can say, I'm going to try and be better. And that we can be lifelong learners with that too. I mean, there really is no model for parenting. I mean, you might see it from your own parents or people that you've been family friends with and everything, but there is no specific guidebook. Years ago, I mean, people were, reading those books on what to expect, the first year, and then I guess maybe, for the next 10 years. But it's really, if you love and you put your heart into it, and you're looking out for their well-being and safety and growth, I think that really is the playbook for it, don't you?
I absolutely do. And I love that you bring up the what you expect when you're expecting, because my kids like to make liars out of all those books. They're like, you think you know what's coming, but you don't.
Right.
And truly, I teach parents that the best manual they have is their mom gut. Like that's it. And that's, again, where I come in as a life coach is you can't hear your mom gut if you're listening to what everybody else in the world is telling you to be. You won't hear it because you're too busy trying to please somebody else and be the parent they think you should be for your kid.
Well, I think a lot of people think that people are thinking things and they're not.
Oh my gosh, for real.
That your mind is playing tricks on you about people thinking something about you or talking about you and they're not.
For sure.
And so how do you get out of your own head?
Exactly. And that is what I help you do. And a lot of that, some of it that you already mentioned is talking that through. It's funny listening to clients talk to me. Sometimes they answer their own question before they finish it. They're like, oh, wait. It's like, yes. And that's one thing I do is I provide a safe place. So a lot of what we do is operating in defense mechanisms, trying to either live up to an expectation or prepare to not live up to an expectation. And even when we let the world go, we're not safe places for ourselves. And so in that moment with a client, I help create a safe environment. I help them pull from that negative self-talk so that they can hear their mom gut or they can see who they are and see where their heart is really telling them to go rather than being caught up in the defense and reactionary decisions.
Well, and the defense is generally your ego.
Yes.
You just let your ego get in the way. And if you could just set that aside and say, you know, really, what are the circumstances right now? Take a look at it very positively. What would you say to somebody else who is in the same circumstance? Why do people do that to themselves as well?
Right.
That, you know, they need to love themselves as much as they love someone else. You hear it all the time and you see it all the time. Jamie, I want to ask you too about your best advice to give someone so that they can be more self-aware and confident.
Well, if you were just to listen to one thing today and just take it and run with it, and run with it hard, really dive in and commit, it would be to look at that voice in your head and how you're talking to yourself. My mentor coach, Dean Nixon, says, if you talk to your best friend the way you talk to you, how long would you be friends?
Right.
And so I dare you to try and be your friend. If you do nothing else, your life will change.
Jamie, I'm so glad you joined me today. Thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
I want to thank my guest, Jamie Lightner, life coach and founder of Flawless Imperfections. I also want to thank my supporting sponsors, Marketing Resource Group, Downing Industries, Governmental Consultant Services, AF Group, AT&T, the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, and the Fraser Law Firm. You can listen to all my podcasts at connectwithkb.com. Until we connect again, go live your best life. I'm your host, Kristin Belzer.